so funny.
Uh,
He's not gonna
yeah,
say
the
anything.
response has been very interesting overall, but this show and a couple other ones really picking up things. Let's see here.
Yeah,
Okay.
see, I'm refreshing. I'm
Okay,
refreshing.
it should be on now. Hang on.
All right.
Let's see here. Yeah, it's live now.
Okay.
So if you go to YouTube, it should be
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
It always lags a little bit.
Yeah, there's a bit of a lag.
Yeah,
There'll be a
yeah,
bit of
yeah.
a lag. Okay, let
It's
me see.
okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay, we got it. Yeah, I got to change that. Now we'll give him a couple of minutes. Okay. God, that was a powerful show. The amazing thing it feels like that things are kind of like on autopilot. And I don't mean like we don't have to do anything, but
Mhm.
it's like all, life's happening, you know, for us, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it's unfolding in a natural way.
Yep. Yep. Well, Gareth will describe it as we're entering the active phase. So, and if you follow a lot of people, I follow a lot of people, this whole paradigm shift. By the
We're
way,
live.
Gareth, we're live.
We're live.
Okay.
Hi,
She
everyone.
she insisted we go live. I'm
Yeah,
not going
I'm
to
not.
argue with Mother Goddess. All right.
Well, I had friends, Chase and Roseanne, saying it's not live yet. I'm refreshing, it's not live yet. So, and I'm not able to get it live on my phone right now. I don't know what's happening with that. But they say it's
There's a bit of
live,
a
so
delay.
I'm
Yeah,
perfectly
just
happy with that.
go out of just clear YouTube off of your
That's
phone.
what I'm doing. I'm
Yeah,
closing
open it.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then
Yeah, when in
reopen
doubt,
it.
reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When in doubt, reboot.
Oh, so I was explaining, Gareth, Todd had just said that it kind of feels right now that we're on pilot. Not that we have to not do any work or it's a time to rest. It's in fact the opposite. I said you
Yeah.
very often describe it as we are now entering the active phase.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
very good point, actually. That's it. Because yeah, actually in January, the Arcturians showed me a timeline, which they do sometimes, and it's very open, but they say keywords to kind of connect you with the flow of what's going on in the right way. So you put two and two together yourself. So they showed me this timeline. They said the year will begin slow. Firstly, they said you will not end the year in the same situation with which you began it. So basically, the start of the paradigm shift showing up physically. Then they said the year will begin slowly. It will seem passive because at the time, myself, a lot of people were feeling like, come on, like
Mm.
it was dragging because we've
Yeah.
been
Through
coming out of a very deep phase. Yeah,
We're
yeah.
still we're still feeling that way. Are you kidding
no,
me?
it was like that through the end of May, and then it
Yeah.
popped. Yeah.
Well, that's what they said.
Now it's popped again. Yeah.
May will begin the process. It will begin speeding up. Then they showed me September was a key month. They call it the slingshot. And now we all know what's been playing out in September. And Tom God just singled out the UN as a key element. He said your UN is not so united. Your United Nations is not so united. And there's a bit about that too. I can go into referencing Star Wars, which he also gave to Lucas. Then they showed me December. So it was like a slingshot. And the image I have in my mind anytime I think of it is like if you got a slingshot and you put a pebble in it and you skip the pebble across water, it's like it jumps over in October, November and hits December and goes straight into next year.
Yeah.
And so this passive phase, it's almost like October, November are like integration. And then boof, we're
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. Yeah. December is always a big month for me, May and December. So I'm looking forward to that. Let me formally roll this show out. It is unofficially titled Two Arcturians and the Nazarene Walk into a Bar. That was Katie. That wasn't me. I
I
didn't think
love
of
it.
that.
That was
Um,
me, and I couldn't stop giggling about it. But I
How
didn't
good
know
was
how
that?
to make that. I don't know.
That's
well,
perfect.
this weekly episode is catching fire real quick. I don't know who sells those glasses that you wear, but I think their sales are going to go up dramatically.
Everyone wants them.
Zenni,
Yeah.
let me plug Zenni. Zenni. My girlfriend Stacy has the same ones, and everyone loves them.
I need some rainbow colored glasses.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you guys jump into it because you've got a synergy that I don't want to interrupt as it continues to unfold in front of everybody. I know a lot of people are really getting into it. So I'm going to go ahead and make you a host, Gareth, make you the host, and then I'm going to check out and watch it and work the comment section. Okay. So thank you very
Cool.
Absolutely.
much, and
Thank you.
I will see you next week at this time. Okay.
Cheers, brother.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Todd. So, Gareth, you and I were on the Zoom before this started, and you know the questions that I had coming in from people in my phone. So I don't know where you want to start. I can read some,
Let's do
I
that.
mean, yeah, okay. So,
And you've been going through a bit too, and I think they're all connected. Me, you, and the questions and where everyone's at, it's always connected. So yeah, let's go with the questions.
you're gonna
Let
make
it
me cry.
roll.
You're gonna make me cry. So, okay, so my friend has been, multiple friends have been catching up to your episodes with Todd before I joined the call, and they're getting all excited. And this is a really good question. So she's talking about, I think maybe your second episode, and she says, in this clip, Gareth discusses the Nazarene. Um, the Nazarene gave the dark forces the choice to turn around and choose the light, and they would be redeemed, right? They had their chance, 2000 some odd years ago. My question is about the dark forces. Why would they ever choose to go the wrong way, the dark way? What did they think they would get out of it? Why would they ever believe they would be greater than God or the Nazarene? I don't understand how they made the decision to keep falling and what their incentives were. Maybe Gareth gets into that soon, but it just brings me to the bigger question of why don't we understand more about the dark forces? Even today, we can't see or name them more clearly. I understand it's complicated, not black and white. There is good and bad and everything, but I find it difficult to understand how to find or follow truth when I don't understand how to define or clarify what the dark is.
Yeah.
Because when you keep pulling on the threads, it gets blurry and you're down a rabbit hole and you realize it's pointless because what you really need to focus on is you and within. So she's getting frustrated by not being able to clearly distinguish the dark forces at play, whether it was thousands of years ago or today. And I thought it was a brilliant question. I've asked it before. What was the point? Like, why? Yeah.
Precisely, and fantastic, great question, because that sums up the whole thing in a nutshell, really. And that's, I think, the missing piece. Great. Okay. Well, look, there's a lot of parts to that answer, but I want everyone to know it's really, really simple as well. Like it's actually simple. That's why they confuse it with, they're experts at uh, camouflage and they use
Mhm.
complexity to do it. So let's look at who are they? This dark force, like what are they comprised of, and what was the Nazarene's intention when he came as the Nazarene? Well, Tom God, and we can talk about the name Tom at some point. I'd like to get into that, but um, he told me that he called them those of the interference. Now, just remember that the entire universe comes from a single frequency. All physical form is one frequency. Think about the illusion of separation so that we can have this experience, but it's all one as well. So love is all there is, and time creates an absence of love or an absence of the experience of the unification of the all that is that we step into one moment after the next. It comes to us, and we receive it. That's all it is, right? So the interference thing is static. It's like it's a way to jam the signal so that it puts this static between us and the flow of love
Right. But
instead of
why?
receiving.
Like,
Now, why?
okay.
That's the thing, right?
Okay.
So, who are those of the interference? Well, they start with a being that Tom described as the one that fell, which Christianity turned into the devil. Now, look at the word. It comes from There is a Latin root, but separate D and evil, of evil. What's the word evil? It's an inversion of the word live. So what's this static do? We have to go through their system to live life. We don't go direct. We have to go indirectly to connect with God through religion. We have to go indirectly to connect with being a person functioning in the world by going through their financial system, etc. The whole system, what God described as the octopi that binds, which they created to create this whole big complex thing that we think is reality.
Right.
Now, so the one
Thank
that
God
fell,
it's not.
yeah, thank God it's not. Now that's
Thank God it's
very,
not.
it's just like the illusion of separation. What we are separated by is an illusion. This dark force. Darkness is just an absence of light. In other words, an absence of awareness. If we knew the full story, they could not function. There is no they. Now, what's the one that fell? There's three layers to those of the interference. There's the one that fell, which is the core intention behind this whole darkness turning itself into a thing, which it isn't. Darkness is an absence of light. There is no darkness. The one that fell is the ultimate expression of the ego that controls, which is based on fear of death. So the ego is the thought I. It's
Mhm.
not, it's not, there's not a thing called the ego in reality. It's what creates the illusion of separation. Let there be light. Lucifer, God's favorite angel, sits at the right hand of God, left brain. So the whole illusion is created by the illusion of the thought, I am separate. But there's the divine order to that, that which knows all. In other words, the living field of conscious potential wishes to experience everything that that potential can be. The only way to do that is to have an illusion that there's a part that isn't aware yet. That creates space and time. So we're just that part of God that doesn't know everything yet until we step in or receive each moment. Now I
Right,
know.
but those of the interference, what was it like if we are
Well,
God, experiencing God, what was the instigation? Like what was the purpose? Why?
well, a thought has a beginning and an end. It's not eternal. That the one that fell wanted to be separate from God and eternal. It was the ego trying to be permanent. In other words, the awareness, there's a conscious awareness within that being that it would come to an end. Now, really, all that happens is it changes form, constantly changing form, just like everything in the universe. You're born into this physical body, which means there's two things going on. There's the truth of who you are and this illusion that you're born into called Katie or Gareth, which serves a divine order. It's so that you can experience the illusion of separation coming back into unity every single moment, one moment after the other. Each person you meet, the love of the flow of life. We are one, and yet we are so different. That's fantastic. It's like a way to explore all the versions of love that all the form of love can take. That's it.
Sure, but wasn't the fallen one or wasn't those of the interference essentially us thousands of years ago and they just
Now
like
that's the
decided, "Oh,
last
I'm
element.
going to choose the dark." Like
What?
like I guess that's what the question is. Like what?
Yeah, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So just like the universe has a source, the inversion has a source, the one that fell, the ego that controls. So there's a separate, now there's a deeper, there's a physical layer called the extraterrestrial level. So there are ET races, just like the Star Wars analogy of the Empire. There are ET races that the Emperor, through Darth Vader, the ego that controls, is a representative of, have infiltrated and inverted through their free will. So they've become minions of that intention of the one that fell to be separate from God. And there's a methodology and there's a reason why they're doing it the way they're doing it. Without them the one that fell can't create an inversion, an inverse reality. It needs self-aware life to choose it as their source instead of God. Because once free will is created, it has to be honored. Now, that's the way the one that fell thinks it can create a universe which it is the center of, making it eternal by getting enough self-aware life within this universe to create critical mass, to flip the whole thing in physicality back to itself as a center, making it eternal. So it has to go through
Taking the
civilization,
place of God.
civilization after civilization after civilization, getting each one to tricking each one through desire
Mhm.
to it'll figure out a way. The one that fell's great at standing back and watching and seeing where's the flaw in where's the weak link in the chain that I can pull them into desire and inversion and gradually move them without them fully being aware of the consequences. Making an informed choice is critical to free will. So he tricks them, pulls them into this inversion, thin end of the wedge, Trojan horse, and slowly moves them through decision after decision after decision to a complete inversion until they're fully committed. They've severed their heart connection to God. They've chosen by free will to choose to sever their heart connection and give their physical form to the one that fell, the all-seeing eye, the ultimate expression of the ego, the I that can see the whole universe at a quantum level. So that's why strategically it seems so powerful. It seems as big as God to these races. So now they participate in going into races and tricking each civilization. So that's what happened in Atlantis. So now there's a human element that was tricked through desire. The human race and the planet was created as the most physical version of the illusion of separation. And there was a reason for that. But the thing about that is, it's when you make it really, really more physically dense, the the intensity of the physical interaction becomes strong. So sexuality became very powerful, and the female form in on Earth, planet Earth, through humanity became the ultimate expression of feminine beauty. But the feeling of sexuality, the interface between masculine and feminine was very amplified. So that was used by the one that fell as a way in. If it can if it can get us to get so focused on sexual, what we get out of it, it goes from the pure intention of unity to just selfishness. It centers your idea on what's good for you. You separate from the unification. It's like narcissism. You want to get from the other person what you get out of it. And it got, again, one decision after a time, slowly, incrementally. You don't feel fully understand until enough beings within the Atlantean civilization, they used genetic engineering to over amplify sexual organs, all sorts of technology to really go too far into it. And it became an imbalance within the civilization that it had to be reset. So that's what, because we chose to go into the dark side essentially. What is the
Yeah,
ego?
you said something before about
Choice.
informed decision for free will, but it's kind of it's falsely informed decision. All of us were kind of manipulated
Yeah.
into making the choice of free will.
Yeah. And that gets to victim perpetrator, which is where
Right.
we're
Okay.
at now.
Okay.
See, it's easy to buy into the idea that you're not responsible for that decision because you were tricked. That's not the case. What
Right.
didn't happen is stand because you wanted the excitement, the zing, what you get out of it more, so much that you were willing to go, yeah, yeah, no problem. Yeah, let's just do that. That sounds great. So you
Right.
made a subjective choice. You weren't
Oh.
objective. So you always stopping. You're having the emotional intelligence to feel all of that without just acting on impulse. Holding that feeling, that's the divine feminine, emotional intelligence. Sacred masculine is objectivity. So your emotional body deepens in the moment and your mental body, your mental structure rises above the whole picture and takes a snapshot. It sees what would happen if you acted on impulse. What are the ramifications? And is that a wise choice?
Mm.
And pulls back from the decision until it understands the full ramifications. Now, that's what didn't happen. And that's what happens. The one that fell brings you into that way of being gradually without you being fully aware. But it's incumbent on us to make an informed choice. If we don't do that, we've chosen that plan. We chose that plan. It wasn't forced on
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely. But it's the hardest work I've ever done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Taking
Seeing the
responsibility for
choice,
yourself.
taking responsibility for self, for the choices I made, and the anger and the rage I have that I was duped.
Mhm.
So furious.
Yeah, and that
And
needs to go.
then coming, oh, so angry at some shit I did, some shit I didn't do. Oh my God. And then to Byron Katie it or whatever you want to call it and see it all as perfect. Well, how can that be perfect?
Mhm.
I ask. How can
Mhm.
that be perfect if it didn't give me what I wanted or not what I wanted in that desiring way, but like I mean I guess so. I mean God's plans for us are so much greater than our own plans and we are, tinkering with the idea we're in control of anything. Ha ha ha. But it's like coming to terms with choices I made almost killed me.
Mhm. Yeah,
Like
it is death, facing death. What is death? I mean, that's where the ego that controls comes from. He doesn't want to die. But what is death? There is no death. There's
there
only you
is no death. But
just change form. You
yeah,
leave this vehicle and
yeah,
what
just a
God called
transition.
transition. You transition from one physical form to another. So that which transitions is eternal. The mind can't define it either. The truth of who you are, Ramana Maharshi, who forms true north in this whole process, satsang, the path of self-inquiry. Who's the one taking your attention off what you're aware of and putting it on the one? Who's the one aware? Am I coming from the truth of who I am or the ego that controls? Having that question, because there's only two points of view that exist within the humanity right now. The truth of who we are, which gets pushed to the background by the ego that controls.
Yep.
This doesn't resonate with me. The path of self-inquiry was, okay, which me doesn't it resonate with? Am I reinforcing the problem by editing out everything that doesn't resonate with me, calling it spirituality? Or is it really the truth that it's not resonating with my heart connection with the universe? Asking yourself that question in every single moment, no matter
Every
what it
single
looks like,
moment.
that's what brings you out of the inversion, facing true north. Now,
So,
why did the Nazarene turn up? See, what he offered, when we say he offered the dark forces the chance to turn back to the light, it was the human side of this system, not the ETs, not the one that fell there, way past redemption. But the plan in the Roman Empire hadn't, the final stage of that plan to get the entire human race to choose slavery hadn't begun yet physically, and that was the Roman Empire. So he turned up. The fourth beast rising from the sea is corporations connected to admiralty law. Well, that's what the Roman Empire was inverted from a federal republic into a totalitarian system to create. So it was a microcosm of what they're doing right now in physical form. That would then self-replicate throughout the planet gradually over time until it became totality. Well, that fourth beast, corporations, the first corporation, of course, was the Vatican Church. It was Vatican City, and that just replicated itself. London, all through all the empire building nations were used over the next 600,000, 1,500 years to create admiralty law because it created a legal crisis. Where did the border between one empire end and the next empire begin? No one, there wasn't defined. So it created this conflict that needed a system. So we were tricked into creating a legal system which was separate from the planet. Because the law of the high seas, it's like, it's not a, you can't zero it in on the planet. Common law, the law of the land, and our physical energy is matched by the planet. We literally physical
right,
form comes from the planet. We're the only physical form on the planet that has the same resonant frequency as the core of the planet itself.
right.
So it was a way to get us to choose to sever our heart connection to God in in a it crystallizes that choice without us realizing that's the implication of it. So that's what's playing out right now, corporate takeover of the planet. But That's why the Nazarene turned up at the Roman Empire just before they started. Take one more step, he said, basically, effectively, and you're done because you cannot win. You won't win because we have a plan B. And you were set up from the beginning. The human race was created as a trap for those of the interference, right from the ground up. And that's what the Nazarene oversaw as the hawk. Tom God described that to me as the being called the hawk, who oversaw the seeding of planet Earth, the genetic um, experiment. It's the first time it's been done in the history of the universe that created the human race and this planet. The biodiversity of life here doesn't exist anywhere else in the universe. And the biodiversity of racial groups within the human race. It's one race with multiple faces. That doesn't exist anywhere else in the universe either. And it has massive implications because what's the best weapon to use against the one that fell? Temptation. Here you go. Here's one race and one planet that is that is a
Embodies,
microcosm of the entire galaxy. If you get this planet, you've got the whole thing in one go. Now
right,
that's like a big carrot.
right,
So the one that fell, you can't be bigger than God. Yes, the all-seeing eye is a quantum computer. Essentially, it has a God's eye view of the universe almost. But it isn't the consciousness that the ego arises in. God is always able to see more, and he said of the universe, it is totality of understanding is beyond your comprehension. That goes for the one that fell as well. So he didn't understand. It didn't understand the full ramifications of jumping in with both feet with the human race. So that whole thing with Atlantis was a setup. So the hawk put this plan together,
yeah,
knowing the full picture. And all the other races involved, some benevolent, some malevolent, some Tom described as sitting on the fence waiting to see what you will do. They were all utilized in this plan because it had to be a conglomerate of all the elements of this galaxy in one race. But none of them knew the full story. Only the Nazarene did as the hawk. And that's where Horus comes from in the Egyptian pantheon, by the way. So he triggered the trap as the Nazarene. So plan A, turn back to the light, and the human side is redeemable. That will disconnect humanity from the plan. We could have stopped this at any point in history since Atlantis. God said, we have asked and we have asked for unity. It isn't a case of God not stepping in and helping us like we should be angry at God because of that. Free will has to be on it. If we don't choose to allow that help, in other words, recognize that we're not each other's enemy, that's the whole problem. Love and light, brother, sister, you are not the enemy. We could have come together and gone, okay, let's take the focus off killing each other because you're the perpetrator and I'm the victim, and that justifies me killing you. And your killing is wrong because otherwise I wouldn't feel that way. Instead of doing that, going round in circles for thousands of years, we could have stopped it, go, hang on a minute, let's look at the real problem. Instead, we didn't do that. But the point where we would wake up was inevitably sewn into this by the Nazarene when he allowed himself to be executed, which Tom God described as he could have stopped it at any time. So them choosing to stay with the plan locked the one that fell inevitably to the outcome of that. They could not escape. They were tricked. It was like a spider's web, if you like, in a good way. They were pulled into this web of their own creation that they could not escape from without. The only way to get out of it was to win.
So, okay. So let me bring another question in and make it a little more earthbound. I always want to go more galactic, and I don't have enough groups where I can talk about all this stuff, but at the same time, I want to talk about it at a human level because everyone's in hell. Like
Yeah, why
I
should
can't
Joe
even
Bloggs going through hell right now care about all this? Yeah. What does it mean for
it,
them?
yeah. So this question I thought was really good in light of recent events. I mean, we're all very aware of the Charlie Kirk incident and whether it's true, whether he's dead, whether Israel did it, whether his wife did. Nobody knows. So here's the question. So it all seems like a show. His
That's the
wife,
Nazarene.
10:33. His wife, Candace Owens, and it's that thing about Israel wanting us to hate them because it fulfills a prophecy. And then Candace Owens ties in. She's pushing stuff about Israel, but not sure if she's trustworthy. She feels like she's in the club. Like anybody with that much of an audience feels like they are in the club. You're not going to get that voice without them allowing that truth or that info out. So then it makes this person wonder, is she pushing, making us think it's Israel? Because even though they're doing this genocide currently, and for a long time now, it's too far removed for us to care. So
Mhm.
they fake Charlie Kirk's death to make us hate Israel, because there's that part in the Israel about them being, the chosen one or whatever. It's like I don't know the Bible well or whatever, and making us hate them to fulfill a prophecy. Can you talk to that whole
Yeah,
Charlie Kirk thing?
absolutely. Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, like Charlie Kirk event, let's say, let's make it personal to the USA so that we trigger that emotional reactionaryism. Remember, the whole strategy, and but by the way, just like why are they doing this? God said they're looking for a way to make the transition with you, which the Nazarene made inevitable by taking when he was executed by them,
Right.
which meant they, by their own free will, chose to be locked into the outcome of this process. He then took a concentrated homeopathic dose of the truth of who we are into our collective consciousness, so that when the sun went through the same process that it went through 12,500 years ago, i.e., its core signature frequency would rise like a lot, taking it. The sun's frequency is the engine room behind the Schumann resonances of every planet in the solar system. Same with all. That's the same with all star systems. It's all run off the star itself. That's the engine room. So they fluctuate. They can fluctuate depending on the point they're at in the galactic great year orbit, which is 26,500 years in our solar system's case.
Yeah.
So as soon as that started to happen, this concentrated homeopathic dose of the truth of who we are would be triggered by that. So there's a whole lot that went with that plan B. So that's what's playing out right now. We're waking up, like the Nazarene said. Why are you so amazed? All this and more, you too, physical manifestation, manifesting physical reality, all this and more, you too shall do, for as I am,
Healings.
so too are you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
healings, all of those
yeah,
gifts. Yeah, all of those
that's
abilities. We've been
that's right.
inverted and manipulated out of even knowing we have those
Yeah,
abilities. And
yeah,
everyone's not everyone, but like there's a great wave of coming to
yeah.
remembering how powerful we are.
That's right. So they were given the opportunity. They had another plan, but then suddenly the Nazarene shows up and wow, we can spin a narrative around the Nazarene and it makes it 10 times better. This just fell into our lap. Again, desire, tricking. So they spun this whole thing called about religion around the Nazarene. Jesus Christ. God said, that is not our name for him. We call him the Nazarene. He had all of the good from us, like us, made in the image and likeness of God, all light, in other words. You made a God of him. So that separates us. You can't say you like the Nazarene or you're committing blasphemy. They made it the exact opposite of what he was all about.
Everything's inverted. Yeah,
They did
yeah,
that,
yeah.
yeah, again, they come between us and reality. They put themselves between
Okay,
us and reality. That's
so
all we do. So getting back to Israel.
and Charlie Kirk, yes,
And Charlie
please.
Kirk. So the analogy in Star Wars was given by God as Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. So that's what's playing out. He was the one who ended it. Like he fulfilled his purpose of being the chosen one. That's the Anakin
Anakin, Darth Vader. Yeah,
Skywalker.
yeah.
He became Darth Vader. In other words, he went from the ego in service to self, the sacred masculine, in service to the divine feminine, the heart connection. So the heart connection says this, you need to step this way, and the mind receives the structure, puts the structure together so that that process, that following the golden thread can happen. That's how life works. You're in the flow of life. Well, he went from that to the inverse, which is the ego that controls out of anger, fear, separation, because he lost the love of his life, Padme. So he became angry at his source. So he wanted revenge at God. That's how that's how the emperor manipulated him by
Right.
creating a scenario that killed his partner. And then he bought into that. But that's how he fulfilled his purpose, by going
Okay.
so far into the dark that he was the closest one to the one that fell. Like right, without Darth Vader, the whole empire couldn't exist.
Okay, so tie it into Israel and
Well,
Charlie
because
Kirk.
they're God's chosen people. But they're a microcosm. Human race, the human race was created as a trap for those of the interference, because they were creating a problem in the entire universe. The balance between dark and light was being thrown out by the one that fell's plan, playing out gradually over billions of years. He was bringing more and more races into the dark side, and it was creating an instability. So that had to be dealt with. So the human race was created, God's chosen people, a conglomerate. We're like a microcosm of the entire universe in one being. Now the Hebrew, they're a micro. How many races call themselves Jewish? And they come from the feminine. They're a microcosm of the human race. And God went on and on about the importance of the Hebrew in the transition. They were infiltrated for that reason, because of their power. The one that fell, the emperor, went for Darth Vader precisely because of his power. He was a carrot. So he was the chosen one because of his power, the creative power that he had. He was a concentrated form of humanity as well, which meant he was a very powerful tool for the emperor. So he went after him specifically because of that. But by doing that, he pulled in the light too close to him. Darth Vader was the only one strong enough to go that far into the dark and choose the light at the last minute.
Right,
The
exactly what you
Hebrew,
say about humanity.
yeah.
Right.
So the whole history of of World War One, fascism, World War Two, etc., it was all social engineering to create this scenario, which created the UN, which God focused in on. Centralization of power,
Okay, so
totalitarian.
okay, so then speak to the confusion that the entire Charlie Kirk thing brings to everyone. Like, and Candace Owens. And speaking of Israel, and is somebody a psyop? Are they placed there? Like nothing is real.
Yeah,
Nothing is real, and
now
nobody knows. And also, who cares ultimately? Which is whatever.
you can't resolve the whole story going down any of the rabbit holes. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
It's really important to work out Charlie Kirk. It doesn't
not
matter
really.
in the end whether Charlie Kirk really died, whether he didn't die, it's not, that's not what's important so much as the motivation behind creating the scenario. Because how do they get totalitarianism? They can take control of the narrative. The first point of the plan is take control of the narrative. They run the media. They run our perception of reality because they control the information that we have access to. So they control the decision-making process. We need to make a decision based on what? The information we're aware of. If they control that, they can manipulate our ability to make. We think we're choosing choice A versus choice B. Which one's the right one for me? We're just choosing a scenario that they're controlling
Yeah,
so that they can get an outcome. So they generate problem, reaction, solution. The reaction is embedded within us through the media very cleverly. So
yeah,
it's psychological warfare 101. So they use war scenarios in movies, science fiction scenarios, all sorts of scenarios to pre-embed a response to a situation before we even get there,
yeah,
so that we have this emotional reaction to the moment, which isn't about the moment. We're not actually, remember, direct experience. We're living indirectly through their mind control system.
yes,
So they keep that inflamed. They want the reaction, constantly us in reaction, so that we're not making an informed choice. We're literally irrational. That's the problem. The problem and the solution aren't where the focus needs to be. It's our reactionaryism,
yeah, yeah.
right? So it doesn't matter what version of the problem Charlie Kirk is on. It's just the problem that triggers the
Right.
reaction so that they can bring in the solution. The last thing they want us to do is to see them through. It's the Jewish people that are the problem. No, it's not. It's those of the interference that are a problem. They've simply infiltrated the Hebrew. They aren't Hebrew,
They aren't,
but they've
well, that's the whole thing.
infiltrated.
We've said this before. It's not the Israel of the Bible. It's the state of Israel. It's the controlling, it's those of the interference. It's very
That's right.
different. But that's why the term anti-Semitic goes around like
Mhm.
wildfire. As soon as you disagree with, drag queens reading to kids in libraries, you're anti-Semitic. Like it's
Reaction.
fueling the fire everywhere. Yeah, it's creating reactions, response, anger, division, confusion, distraction, while all this stuff is happening over here.
Yeah,
And
that's what, and I
so,
want to keep
so
that going.
yeah, keep that going. That static that you speak about.
Mhm.
That's kind of
Mhm.
a good understanding. But then so then what do we so then what does everybody do? Like why energetically, why when I'm feeling like I made a reel on Instagram a couple of days ago about not wanting to be here. I'm not trying to alarm anyone or get attention. I'm sharing how horribly I feel all the time and for many years now, and there's nothing that touches the black void. And so when I shared that, people reached out from all over the world. I got a call from my girlfriend in Israel, and she relates, and everybody relates, and people are, wanting to not be here. And like it's like I'm giving them permission to say that shit because nobody's able to say that without people thinking you're whining or you're weak or you're something. But so if I'm like, is there something happening? Because I've heard you refer to things as frequency wars. Is there something happening that we don't see that they're doing? So many people, so many teachers are saying those feelings you're having aren't even yours.
Yeah.
Like, so how are we expected, even though I know we've won? That's another question Chase had about we've won. How do we know we've won? Like, how does everybody know the light is won? So, like, my question is like if those thoughts aren't our own, and I know we've won, but the question is still relevant, how do we win if we don't even see the weapon? If we
Mhm.
don't even, like, that's some
Yeah.
unlevel fucking playing field there.
Yeah, well, they've weaponized free will against us,
Right.
but they've created the scenario that sets us up to do that to ourselves. Now, this is the thing where you're at and where a lot of people are at, and what the Nazarene triggered and what's being triggered now is people have all the same feelings we've always had for thousands of years.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter what you do, it's like nothing touches it as well. So there's a there's a massive tension that creates, but we're not acting out in the way we've always done. The manipulation has always been about us acting on the reaction. God said to me, what is important is to act. When we act on it, we create a problem. Now, what's the strategy about? They're looking for a way to make the transition with us. So, what do they need to do? What do they need to shut down in the human race while they figure out a way to do that? They need to keep us orbiting around the same problem. It's like hold us over here, stop us evolving, stop us moving through the natural progression that all life in the universe moves through, hold us in one place while they figure out a way. That's really all they've been doing. Karma. That doesn't, the whole thing about karma. What happens when if you're a perpetrator, like the people in Germany who were tricked into being Nazis, who committed awful crimes, the whole reason that was done was because you can't do that. And you need to come back and rebalance. You need to keep reincarnating life after life after life and make amends. You need to balance back out. Your action needs to be in harmony with the reality that everything is one. You're doing it to yourself, really. So that karmic loop, what God called the bottlenecking of souls, has been the main strategy. That's really all it's about, keeping us stuck in one place, orbiting around the same problem, while they try to figure out a way to use us to get off this inevitable
Yep.
end.
Yep. So one of the questions in the chat from Janelle, who you and I have been on a Zoom with before, She says, if we've won, why isn't the feeling of joy coming into my reality more? That's a
It will.
great fucking question.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a doorway because again, victim perpetrator. That's the way the Arcturians, when they show me what it looks like, what they, because I have my connection to the fifth dimension is visual, so I receive this stuff visually. So they showed me an image of a spiral. They said you are not moving around in circles. That's the victim perpetrator thing. When you're willing to go, okay, I've got a problem, I don't know what it is. Instantly you switch back on as a receiver. You stop just being a transmitter of this conditioning which they've fed us, even though that's all you know, even though they've got no other alternative. You don't know what else there is except this false self that you've always thought was you and this false reality. And that's all you can see because your point of view has that inversion in it. So everywhere you look, it looks like you're seeing the inversion everywhere you look. The problem isn't what you're looking at, it's the one looking at it. But because you've recognized you've got a problem you don't understand, that's what you're connected to. The fact that you aren't being your true self. That's not who you are.
Yeah,
That point of view is it's reflecting back physical form in its own image.
right,
That's how the inversion works. So
right.
when you ask the question, yeah, but what's the truth? You're not going to get an answer. It's not, we want the solution to the problem to come in now. And that's
Yeah.
part of the interference. They've tricked us into thinking that that's the way it works. It's not the way it works. It's
No.
you get undone gradually by asking the question of each experience that looks like it, the thing it's always been, while you get a handle on while that part of you that can receive the truth comes back. Because remember, you were 3 years old. Your mind formed around the inversion. Everything you think you know is the detailed picture you have of the false self and the false world is massive. And yet
Yeah.
your perception coming from the truth of who you would have been had you not been tricked out of yourself, that's almost negligible. It's literally you've got no words for it because you were only 3. You didn't know you couldn't describe who you are or where you are to anyone because you didn't have the words yet. Your mind hadn't formed around it yet. Now that's all that's happening. You're getting the attention out of the same old reactions. Like as soon as you get into a
Yeah.
situation, your mind goes, you get this feeling, which is not a feeling, insecurity, anger, they're all just they're mind conclusions. So they're thoughts, Ramana Maharshi sat saying, he said they're mind conclusions. They're thoughts masquerading as feelings. But as soon as you get that, your attention goes straight off into a story. And that's all you've ever known. Because you don't know that that's true anymore. That's essentially, you don't know that that's true anymore because you don't know what the problem is. If you knew what the problem is, you wouldn't have a problem. So you're still feeling like you've got a problem, no matter what you think, no matter what you try, no matter what conclusions you make, it doesn't work like it used to anymore. So
For
straight away,
years. For
for
years.
years, and it looks the way it looks, it lasts as long as it lasts, but your attention keeps coming back. What's the truth? What's the truth? What's the truth? What's the truth? And now you're plugged into a process that you can't control, that you can't see why what you're experiencing right now is precisely the help you've asked for. It is God holding you, taking you through exactly the experience you need to come reverse engineer that process your belief system went through. But you can't see it, and you won't see it until you do. But when you do,
Yeah.
you'll stop arguing with it. Now,
Yeah.
that's not something you control. You're going to meet death in every moment. Why? Why? What's the
Every
point of
moment, every moment, everything is black as death. I leave the house and I can recognize the beautiful blue sky and the gorgeous weather and the
you can't
people and
feel it?
I can't feel it. I cannot feel joy for any of it. I can't feel excitement. I don't know.
The
And
mind,
it's so
the mind isn't
uncomfortable.
where feeling comes from, it's the heart. But your sense of reality has been pulled so far away from connection to the heart that you can't feel anything anymore. So the way to get out of that is to stop making the mind conclusions the center of everything. But you can't do that from within your mind conclusions because that's all you can see wherever you look. All you can do is ask for the truth. The truth of who you are is untouched by any of it. You're already there. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
that's the
love
problem.
that.
If you think you're not there, that's the problem. If you think you're not living in the divine order, like God said, you insist you have a human nature. This whole I believe this is who I am. No, it isn't. It's just all you've
No.
ever known. So who are
All
you really?
you
You've got idea. You got no idea, literally no idea. But the truth of who you are never went anywhere.
It's so
And it's
funny.
like,
I often joke like with the awakening, like this is a mass awakening. There's no mistaking that so many of us who we were for decades all of a sudden stopped
all
short,
apart.
stopped on a dime. Like this
Yeah.
great awakening is so real. That's how my faith in God is just absolutely unshakable. But also there's an element of me being in all these spiritual communities and on these calls and attending retreats and everything, and everybody having these amazing beautiful experiences and kumbaya and ayahuasca and I see some of them that are really exercising, and of course it's a trigger for me because I've always struggled with exercising. Like, who wants to do that? But that, like, I always joke, like, I would really love to have had an awakening and all of a sudden be obsessed with exercising. Why couldn't I have that awakening? Like, it's so funny, but it's hard because we find our tribe when we wake up, however fast or slow or however big or small, we find our tribe, and then little by little, even that tribe dwindles down and down and down, at least for me. And I feel like a lot of people as well, because 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 you're condemned, because you're not trying to figure it out and you're not trying to do the fix. Like
Yes.
the anal sun gazing and the barefoot grounding and the like. I don't have anything against that. I am fully aware
Hey,
of
whatever floats
so
your
many
boat.
fantastic things that could make it better, and yet not. And I've done them all. I've spent time in the sun and barefoot and tried this, out of the other, plant medicine. Nothing touches the black void. So so I wonder, what am I doing wrong? What are they doing right? And you continually cheerlead me that I'm doing it right, that I just can't fake that nothing is helping it.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to fake it. God, could I
Yeah.
please have a little bit of being able to fake it?
Well, you do a great job. You do a great job of
I have
shining the
friends who
light.
forget. They say, "Oh, I forget you want to be dead. I
Yeah.
forget you're depressed." Like
Yeah. Well,
I
look, like I say to you all the time, you've gone straight to 0 point. The best thing you can do, the best thing you can do, and it's yeah, it feels black, but i- but is it? Darkness is just an absence of light. But the best way to know that, the best way to know that is to not kid yourself that you don't feel that way and ask for the truth, because doing reinforces the idea that you aren't there already. That's the problem. I've got to do something to come back to myself. Well, the assumption that runs that is that you aren't there already. So all you've done is reinforce the idea that you aren't there already. You
it's
can't do.
hard. It is hard to get to the realization that you're there already when
Yeah.
everything around you is so inverted. I mean, I know everything I look at and everyone I experience and everyone who triggers me or what have you, it's a reflection of me. It has nothing to do with anything, it has to do with me. Yet, we're still living in the inversion where the
Mhm.
media controls, all of our information, where our skies are poisoned, our water is poisoned, our food is utter shite. Like, I'm trying to find the joy, and I'm
Again,
not finding the joy. But again, people in this community that we're talking to right now love me. I have so much support and so much love, and I love them too, and there's still a deadness under the surface.
yeah, but what ran you from the start was the idea that you aren't lovable as you are. Now, every
I'm pretty
action you
lovable.
put.
I am pretty lovable.
Yeah, yeah, but see, this is what every child goes through. We taught that love is conditional. We're not loved no matter what. The impression, the sins of the father are visited on the son. What does that mean? The ego that controls the masculine principle out of balance is projected onto the child by the way they behave. So we react to the child from this inverse sense of reality. So some things the child does make us feel good, some things they do make us feel bad, and we express that. Children go through the first 7 to 8 years, 9 years, which is why the Nazarene said, give me a child till they're 7, I'll show you the man. In other words, I'll show you the masculine principle, the mind in its sacred form. Well, that's because kids are in theta state in the brain, which is hypnosis. So we model. We don't, it's not about the words, it's about we take in so much information as visual. So it's the facial expressions, it's the impression we get from our parents of how we're doing. We're trying to connect to everything around us, and that's our innate natural capacity. We are connection itself, connecting to the illusion of separation around us. But we're given the feeling and the sense, we're shocked out of ourselves by, oh, hang on a minute, I've got to think, I've got to strategize so that I don't get that reaction and I get this one instead. Now,
Fox.
the net description you could say of that is I am not perfect. I'm not lovable as I am. I've got to be someone else. I've got to be something in each moment. So we've got to do being the self that works, which means you take
Our
the
parents
assumption.
had to too.
Well, everyone, that's what the inversion did. That's what's been carried generation after generation after generation after generation. Victims become perpetrators. We're a victim of the inversion, which we then perpetrate through conditioning on each other, on our kids, on everyone. That was done to us, and we're angry about it, and we do it to everybody else because
Oh,
we're angry about it.
okay, so how about that whole victim perpetrator, very real thing. We're all coming out of that and owning our
That's the
responsibility and
spiral.
remembering that's the spiral, absolutely. But how about that whole like, ooh, don't call yourself a victim. But there's still an inversion. There's still those of the interference absolutely fucked with us. So there is a level of victimhood without taking on a
Now
victim
that's where
mentality.
satsang comes in. That's where
Right.
true north comes in.
Yeah.
Because,
Okay.
one of the core things is the path of self-inquiry, what the Ramana said, when you argue with what is, you suffer. Ramana Maharshi was the conduit through which satsang came through in this what the Arcturians call the 4 pillars of the transition, satsang being true north, the path of self-inquiry. So coming back out of this problem, you look at the one who's motivated in each moment. Where are you coming from when you say that, when you think that, when you act from that? Is that the truth of who you are or not? That's where you put your attention. That's where the question, what's the truth, comes from. So when he said, when you argue with what is, you suffer. Now, that's the first moment we get pulled out of ourselves. We are love. It is love, but we
Mhm.
argue with it. We create an inverse perspective, a point of view that says the opposite, that we act on. We reinforce over time, trying to be the one who is lovable, running on the assumption that we aren't that already. We create our creative power. This is how those of the interference work. They've weaponized free will against ourselves. We choose of our own free will to act out as if we're not love already. And we
Mhm.
create this reality. The problem we've all got is the fact that we've acted on the assumption that we aren't love already. So we behave within ourselves. Our attitude, self-judgment and judgment of others is coming from that false perspective. That's the entire problem. How do you
Yeah.
get out of it? Get out of the false perspective. How do you do that? You question everything you think, no matter what
Everything
it
you
is,
think
every moment.
all
Now,
day
what happens
long.
when you do that is you get taken by God through an exact frequency match to your life path, which is unique, and how the inversion took hold of you gradually. So the experience of what react makes you react is put in front of you precisely because that's the problem. Your
Yeah.
reaction is the problem, so don't
Yeah.
react from it.
The
Yeah,
problem is not the problem.
you
Your
can't get
reaction is the
yeah,
problem. Okay.
you can't get a handle on that
So
without being in experience.
So the
You've got to
more
be
of us that get a handle on our reactionaryism, the more that ripples out. It diffuses the energy, it pulls back our power to our sovereign, beautiful,
in.
loving truth of who we are ourselves. and
Yeah.
kind of deflates their
Yes.
plan, deflates
Exactly.
their, okay.
Copper top battery in the analogy in the Matrix was also given by God, I was told. It's a description of how this works. So a copper top battery, a creative energy makes this world work. We assume it's reality. We assume human nature is real. Oh, what can you do? That's human nature. We assume that's reality. What can you do? That's life. No, it isn't. It's a story that we buy. We can't be tricked without a lie can't exist without us buying it. Well, if we don't buy the lie can't enact on it. Well, the lie can't exist. The lie that human nature, we're fundamentally flawed, but hey, we're doing the best we can. But the trick in that is that you won't succeed because we're fundamentally flawed. You can do your best, but you'll never get there. So what's the point? So everyone hits that wall.
Love
That's
it.
what we feel. We feel like it's just you, no matter what I do,
Okay,
what I try, nothing changes. So you've got to feel that and question it. Is that really
so,
true?
right. So by going in, by accepting radical responsibility, by going in, I mean, basically I've cocooned myself in my little sanctuary here to be out there with others as little as possible. Like, is that even honing my skills? Is that even working
Mhm.
on my reactionaryism? Because it feels like the opposite. And
Yeah.
I've shared or heard from other people who have shared with me that they're feeling a pull, a call to go within, to not go out there, to not engage, to quiet it all down, to
Hmm.
soften your feelings. To soften is a big, big word right now. Um,
Mhm.
but you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like there's an element of like, well, the only way I'm gonna learn how to react or not react, rather, is be putting myself in uncomfortable situations. But right now, I can't put myself in uncomfortable situations. They're physically painful. I can't do it.
And are you doing the right thing by doing that is the question, isn't it?
Right,
So what happens?
right,
Firstly, there's a great saying, to keep doing the same thing and expect a different result is the definition of insanity. So, well,
right.
so we've been living in this way that's never worked. So it's pulling back from doing everything the same old way because it doesn't work. You can't argue with what is you suffer. The fact is you feel the way you feel. You can't spiritualize it away.
Nope.
You can try really hard, and I think a lot of people are hitting the wall with that second phase. And the Arcturians described it a four-step process of coming back to the truth of who you are. You start out being born, you are. Ramana Maharshi, someone asked him, "Who are you?" He said, "I am that I am." Not what I am or who I am, the fact that I exist, pure existence itself. The mind can't define isness. And yet you are, I am, everything is. That's what the frequency, the one frequency, we experience it as isness, the pure existence itself. Then the form that takes was there's no investment in it being anything, and it's children just receive. We're born that way. I had that experience when I was two. I had to have that clear sight moment of seeing everything in unity before I got pulled out of myself, so I could always have that golden thread because that was part of my life purpose. Well, that's all kids. We sing the frequency as a child, connects us to the light and sound of everything around us, the physical form. It's all one frequency appearing as separate. So the form isn't what's important. The connection to the everything being one. That's where the flow of life is. The heart connection, the joy of life is the
Yeah,
unity of everything. In the unity of it, it's all one thing.
yeah,
The
yeah,
inversion makes everything into one thing in the opposite form. It's all
yeah,
dark.
yeah,
So
yeah. Because
you've got to step back from acting as if that's the truth, and it's disorienting. But the fact is, no matter what you try, you can't get there. The there
no,
that's supposed to get you away from this
not
feeling of
an
not
act
being
of
what as you
will.
are.
It is not an act of
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. So you've got to stop coming from the same old motivation. And God said, your motivations, your protection in all things. If we're motivated by trying to be someone and get somewhere so that we don't have to feel the way we did when we were three, all we're doing is reinforcing the idea that that's real. That's why it doesn't work. It just makes everything, that feeling of ignorance, the truth of who you are, is darkness. Awareness is light. Darkness is the lack of awareness. So when we judge that as wrong, we give the darkness a form that we're trying to get away from, and all we do is make it more and more copper top battery. We give that more and more form in every moment. The distortion within ourselves that we take on as a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, and it keeps on reinforcing itself. It distorts how we come across, which creates a reflection in the way people react to us, which seems to reinforce the idea that we aren't right as we are. It's not that, it's the other way around. We
We're
create that
absolutely right
thinking
as
it's
we are.
true.
We create the opposite idea about ourselves.
Right.
But then at the same time, knowing all these concepts, these big concepts, and hearing you and understanding it, and yet I'm in this hell, this self-imposed hell that I can't will myself out of. It makes you
It's intense.
further condemn yourself for having these feelings that you know better not to have.
Add a fifth element. God said, how do you get out of that scenario? Like, how do I deal with that scenario? God said, add a fifth element. Now, what does he mean by that? 5 dimension. All self-aware life is 5-sided, he told me. 5 dimensional. Now, we've been shut down at the time of Atlantis to only seeing the physical reality. It reinforced that physical density as being all there is, because that's what we chose. It's like we wanted the intensity of the physical exchange so much that we made that all there is. But that's not all there is. It's 5 dimensional it's beyond space and time.
Mm-hmm.
Spirit, pure
Mm-hmm. I
consciousness. It's not in
after
form.
after my awakening, I might have talked about this on a previous show, but I had a period of 3 days where I literally saw basically you in the garden. I saw everything as one. I was in love with everything. My frequency was the same as everything. Everything was basically, and I described it as like the thought bubble in a cartoon. Everything was in that thought bubble, including the cartoon itself.
No
It's
conflict.
like no conflict, no separation, no duality, no nothing. And so like 11 of course. And so like it's this chase to get back there. And I'm not really in a chase to get back there. Obviously I do plenty of sitting around just fine. But you know what I mean, right? Like like I've experienced that, which we're all going to get to in the coming couple of years, few years, whatever at this point, I don't even know. But that was not, I couldn't will that 3 day experience to myself. It just happened. And now I can't replicate it. It's not happening.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's again, yeah, because you drop it and you get a moment of the truth that you aren't in conflict with yourself or anything. But that's what happens when you get pulled out of yourself. The truth of who you are is is indelible. It can't be destroyed. But your mind can be in conflict with that. Now that's what happens. We take that conflict and we project it out into the world. So we're in conflict with everything. We create the conflict by thinking that we need to be different, which means we project that out that everything else needs to be different. That person needs to be different because they're triggering us. This situation I should avoid because it's wrong. We make this self-judgment. We call everything around it in its own image. So that's again getting back to reversing the inversion in your own direct experience. That's why you've got to stop everything that you've always done. And it feels bad because conditional love is within us. We feel the pull to be the person we should be for everyone around us, particularly family, friends. We lose everything to it, but we can't kid ourselves either. And there's a big conflict within us about that because we need to get a handle on meeting this feeling of conditional love in a way that works. So, firstly, we've got to experience it, which means you've got to stop acting out on everything. Now, that's intense. All your judgment about yourself comes out, all your judgment about other people comes out, and that's as it should be. It needs to become brought up into your awareness
Yeah.
so that question, what's the truth, can because that's essentially what happens when you switch on as a receiver. You switch
Yeah.
off as a transmitter of conditioning. You switch on as a truth. God described the body mind as a receiver. So that question, what's the truth, really? And those scenarios have never been there together at the same time in your awareness before. And that's what changes everything. It shifts your trajectory
Yeah.
through everything. That
Yeah.
takes time to be, that takes time to have an effect, but it will. I guarantee
Yeah.
you can't hit the wall and not be undone by that moment.
Yeah. I
Not now
know.
in this
I
point in
know.
history.
It's just really hard. It's really hard to be here
It is
right
hard.
now. It's
But what's hard?
really,
Hard for
I
who?
know, hard for who? I know. I know. I ask it every day. I ask it every single day. I just had a question
If
and
it's
I
hard for the Katie that doesn't exist, see the implications of that?
I know that's the other thing. After the awakening, and I've talked about this before, I couldn't, like, the awakening was almost overnight. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't read books. I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't be around people. I mean, that part hasn't changed. But I've been so, I've been, unless they're awake and aware and at least willing to talk about real stuff. But I've been so desperate for some relief, some reprieve from this feeling that I have really pushed myself to be able to watch uncomfortable television. I've pushed
Hmm,
myself.
good.
And I think that's good too, in a way. Otherwise, I
Yeah,
wouldn't
it
have done
is.
it. Right.
Yeah.
So, but it's really funny because I used to be all about like SVU, Law and Order, right? Or horror or detective murder mystery, blah, blah, blah. And then after the awakening, no. Oh my gosh, no. That's so
Way
horrible.
too intense.
How can anybody do that? Oh, they're behaving so horribly. Right. I still have those reactions, but then there's the, calm down, Katie. But the one thing
Just
I
breathe.
do now with all the murderers or poor behaviors is I go, oh, you poor baby, you just weren't loved enough.
Yes.
Like, all you need is to be loved. Like, this is where I am with everything. If someone
Hmm.
behaves poorly or unkindly, whether in a book or a TV or whatever, it's like, you just needed more love.
Yeah. That's now, again, that's a big, big thing to separate. That's one thing those of the interference have really been really good at is getting us to blame each other instead of them.
Yeah.
Like when the Arcturians told me during COVID, just say to yourself, love and light, brother, sister, you are not the enemy. And that, we use that a lot, don't we? Because it takes your attention off the same old polarity, bing, bing,
I
bing, bing,
use it. I
conflict.
use it all day long, Gareth, and that is a perfect segue for Janelle's question. She says, Gareth, are you ever triggered by anyone or anything?
All the time, Janelle, all the time. And it's not a destination, it's a way of life. It's what you do with that that's important. Not that again, you can't argue with what is. If you feel that way, you feel that way. It's just like, who feels that way? See, I know that the Gareth that reacts isn't who I am, and I'm being led back through time. See, I know the truth, but there's all these Gareths stuck in time that don't know yet. Me when I was 16 needs to hear that. Now, what that is, it's a scenario, it's a specific scenario that I live through that takes me back in time to the source of that, of me reacting to those sorts of moments in that particular way, which came from a certain experience I had back in time. So who you are right now knows the truth.
Mhm.
Who you were back in all these different scenarios through thousands and thousands of moments throughout your life doesn't yet.
Yeah.
And that's what God's holding you through, taking you back through time essentially by bringing these scenarios. So when I got cut off in traffic, now I see it as the perfect thing I needed to
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
so that I could bring that truth into this present moment. And, one thing Ramana said, what's the key to living life in a way that works? He said, be fully present. And David Deida, who's one of the four pillars of the transition, the whole thing between masculine, feminine, being in right divine order, they both said being fully present in the living moment. That's the masculine presence. Sacred masculine is always right here, right now. What stops us being in the sacred present masculine, which is universal to men and women, it's our belief system.
Yeah.
It's the idea that things should have been different. than they were. So we're not present. So this Gareth that was 16 that went through an experience that has a knock-on effect, which just replicates itself through time to Gareth right now, is being undone systematically through a spiral process. So what happens when you have that moment is basically your sense of self isn't resolved and your sense of self in the world isn't resolved. Now that unresolvedness has locked a part of your consciousness there while it's looking at that moment, trying to resolve it back to the truth, which means you're only 10% active because so much of your awareness is stuck in time. So what actually happens is twofold. You start healing the imbalance of conflict with self within you, but you release more and more awareness. That's why you keep hearing the same thing a year later. You've heard it at a whole other level. There's more of you actually in the
Yeah.
moment
Yeah.
than there was a year ago. Now, what happened between then and now? Did you do that or was it done?
It
You
was
just
done.
surrendered to the truth, the idea that you
Yeah.
don't know what the truth is. And you went through a whole series of experiences that you didn't even know were connected. All you
Yeah.
did was keep meeting them, going, I wish I wouldn't feel this way, but look, I do, and I don't know what the truth is, please help. And that was every experience you had since that moment between now and then when you heard the same thing deeper was the
Yeah.
help you asked.
Yeah. My
Now, at some
girlfriend,
point,
go on.
so I was just going to say, at some point, everyone will get to a point where they internalize the fact that they are guided, we are guided, and we know we have what it takes to meet life. We can actually
Yeah.
see that guidance. Once you internalize that process, like Janelle was saying, how do I ever get triggered? Yeah, but I know that I'm being guided, and I know that I have the capacity to meet that guidance, and the experience that triggered me is the help I asked for.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. The proof, I don't need proof of God, but hearing things you said to me 3 years ago and hearing them 3 years ago and hearing them today is a completely different experience because of the capacity that my myself can now take in. My girlfriend was texting me that she was seeing years ago a very powerful shamanic energy healer at a time of crisis in her life, and that healer was saying things very similarly to what you're saying now, that she's been listening to your recordings, and that what you're saying is landing very differently from when she heard essentially the same similar things 3 years ago. Like there's no there like understanding that there is no mistake in this
It's all
existence,
perfect.
in this experience, full stop, not a single mistake. So then the Katie who has accepted radical responsibility and ownership for past behavior and past decisions, who is the Katie who wants a reset button? Who's the
Yeah,
Katie who wants a do-over?
that's
Is it the
it.
ego?
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I want a do-over on some things, man.
yeah. Now, the fact that you feel that way, you can't deny, but the fact that you feel that way is the problem. Now, one thing Ramana Maharshi said on that was someone asked him, well, what's the secret to enlightenment? And he said, find the one who cares. A part of you cares a lot about getting there
Yeah.
because you aren't there and you want to be. Damn
I'm
it.
laugh. I'm laugh. I know. I know. I'm sorry. I'm laughing at the chat because Janelle, first of all, you answered her about being triggered, and she said you make her feel better. And then she was telling everyone that she was tested with getting caught off in traffic on her way to work, and she did not react well. And then Mike, and then Mike says, "Do you pull in front of others to help them work through it?" It's such a Mike thing to say. Like,
Mike, you're
right?
gold.
Like, are you cutting people off? Are you intentionally being a dick to help people work through their
Oh, it's all
triggers?
in service to their path coming to the truth of enlightenment. You know, you're being
Oh,
a
funny.
priest of love. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Oh, look, I mean, Janelle, like I've said before, I swear more per capita while I'm driving than at any other time.
well,
And
you're in Melbourne.
Melbourne, well, you say that so well now.
Thank you. There's no R in Melbourne.
Yeah, Melbourne. You take all the vowels out, and the Australians don't say vowels. They just All the consonants
The
together.
consonants.
Mm. Oh, yeah, Mel, that's one. We limit them. But look, there's a common thread to all these questions too. So getting back to the Hebrew, and why should we care about this whole galactic element when you're driving in traffic and you're being triggered? What's going on? Well, you're taking on something by question, like your friend who had the shamanic healer say something. Now, her motivation for being in that situation in the first place, the fact that
Was
she was there in the
beautiful.
first place was because she wanted to understand life. There's an
Right.
innate, kids like me when I was 2, there's an innate curiosity about life that we're imbued with because that's our purpose, to explore life. So it's like there's no premeditated, what do I say, agenda. It's simply about exploring life, and there's an excitement and a joy to that. Wow, wow, wow. And then the inversion comes in, and now there's an agenda. So so we want to edit life. So it takes that innate curiosity about learning about life and turns it into an agenda to get somewhere.
Yeah.
We need to learn what we need to learn to get
Yeah.
somewhere. And it and
Yeah.
it
And
supports it.
there's such a
So
shame around not doing.
not
Like
knowing.
our friend Anne and I have shame all the time for not wanting to not want to partake in life as it is. There's such
Hmm.
a level of guilt and shame around that.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
yet I continue to do nothing.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, so the Hebrew are a microcosm of the human race. Very powerful microcosm. And the Nazarene was his paternal DNA was artificially inseminated using light, the Star of Bethlehem. That was really it's about the extraterrestrial involvement in the seeding of the planet Earth. And it had to be that way for him to be as powerful a dose as he was. So his mother's bloodline went all the way back to Atlantean and was directly connected to the hawk. That's what made her the light space vehicle for him, and that's why she had to be pure in her energy. It just had to be her. If she'd had a child, there would have been an energy signature of her and the child combination. So that creates a pattern through family line. So he had to be the firstborn to her, the virgin thing, and it didn't need a father. Couldn't be her husband because it had to be the paternal DNA had to come from somewhere else, which was the what God called the pioneer, the ET element of what created the human race. The originals,
The
the light
pioneer.
space
That
vehicle that
makes
had the
sense.
frequency of the planet, and pioneers from all the other civilizations
Yep.
all put into one race. So he was a microcosm of that too. So he was like a homeopathic dose of the Hebrew. And the Hebrew had been turned into slaves and disowned, disconnected from the land. This whole thing. And that created a disconnect and a lot of pain within them that was looking to be resolved. And there was a lot of victim perpetrator within them, but fundamentally their connection to spirit is too powerful. Their mind is extremely powerful, but their connection to spirit is too powerful. So the mind as a receiver for God is too powerful. It's really strong. It's hard to break it, snap it. And they've been through trauma, generational trauma like no other group in the history of the human race. They're what they've been subjected to as a race. That's a big um, part of those of the interference plan is generational trauma because that has to be resolved before the next generation can really be balanced in themselves. They need to resolve the family system that they're coming from.
Right.
That's a way to stop life purpose, to keep them treading water over trauma. So the Hebrew have had that imbued in them in a big way. Now that was manipulated through World War II.
Yes,
So
that's what
they
I was
used,
just getting to.
yeah, that pain was used, that need to control was used they were, because their minds are very powerful and they have this trauma, and there's a need to control that goes with that. that was manipulated using the financial system, which was not created by, it was created as it's a system of slavery. So that they were used as a conduit, even though they weren't the architects of this dark agenda, they were used as a conduit to manipulate societies around them being the problem, which isn't the case.
Yeah.
That's not the case at all. There's a difference between the Hebrew and those of the interference. So that was used to create the social engineering process of the Second World War, of the 20th century. Massive. The last step of the fourth beast coming out was really hit underway during the 20th century. So the World War One set up an anger with the within Germanic. They were chosen because of their capacity to express anger in form. They're very good at engineering. They're very good mentally at creating form, and in service to self, their capacity to create civilization that works is very strong. But they can be inverted the other way. So World War One, the way the Germans were treated after World War One by the British Empire was really powerful. Then the whole debt slavery thing to pay reparations was the Hebrew we used as a conduit for that. So the German anger could be constellated towards the Hebrew. That was done deliberately. And they were embedded with sleeper cells. That's been a strategy from the Roman Empire. Paul, the patriarch of the Roman Catholic Church, was the ancient version of an MK Ultra agent.
Yeah.
His whole purpose was to take control of the narrative, or give them a way to do that. Well, the same thing. So society in Germany was embedded with sleeper cells that were used to constellate the anger around an ideology called fascism, which was the Jews are the problem, reaction, solution. The
Yeah.
reaction was pretty good. The financial crash, the Great Depression, was used as a way to really enforce that.
This
So then
this 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 leads into like everything is a lie.
everything that's
All of our
happening, it's
history.
a microcosm. Every single empire has gone through the same process that we went through
No
in World War
wonder
II.
we're all exhausted because our history is a lie.
But what happened in 20th century was the final step because it made it global. The whole psyop of the Second World War was to create the UN, to create the World Economic Forum. Like, centralization of power is always the solution. It looked like the solution to peace. Let's bring everyone together in peace and let's stop this war forever. Well, what happened after World War II? More wars, Vietnam, Korea, the amount of revolutions and wars that were triggered by World War II was out of control, out of control. More war in the next century than the previous 1,000 years, and that's saying something. More death toll. A huge amount of people were killed in the name of unity. So anyway, that was all a lie, but it set up these structures. Like Eisenhower said at the end of World War II in America, beware the military-industrial complex. It created a justification for a secret service that was above the law, CIA, all over the world. And it created a justification for creating the state of Israel, but the inverse of it. It created an emotional reactionaryism that allowed extremism. So it took the anger with the Hebrew, or what they'd been through, and created this thing called Zionism, which is not Hebrew. So the Zionists are the satanic end times death cult that came in post the Atlantean flood, took over Roman Empire, created Babylon, blah, 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 blah. The same single group all the time, every single step of the way, just getting bigger and bigger and more global. The Catholic Church, it's a satanic death cult. The British Empire run by a satanic death cult, blah, 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 like all the different things. It's not Masonic lodges, and they're all just expressions of the same single problem, an end times death cult, making death real. Remember, making darkness into a thing is the whole psyop, the whole point. So that was all used as a way to create this vehicle called the Hebrew and use them as a conduit for the inversion. Darth Vader. The whole thing has been about getting Anakin Skywalker, the chosen people, God's chosen people, and turning them into Darth Vader by making them angry at God. But their spiritual connection is too powerful. So what they didn't realize is they were creating their own nemesis. So
Right.
what's playing out in Israel right now is the end times death cult is fighting for its life. Mossad control the mainstream media.
Yeah.
Mossad control the human trafficking rings. That's why Russia, the timeline that the Arcturians gave me 3 years ago, before this all happened, they showed me another timeline with March, whatever year, I think it was at 2023, that Russia went into Ukraine. Now, what's that
Yeah.
all about? It
Yeah.
looks like the media sells it as
The
Russia's the
media
bad guy.
so yeah, I was just gonna say, if the media has told me someone's a bad guy, I'm
Turn it around.
pretty sure they're a good guy. And if the media, basically that goes for like celebrities too. If a celebrity is canceled, they wanted out of the death cult. If a
Mhm.
celebrity is dead, they were either given the option to live out their lives in obscurity somewhere, or they were killed. Like
Mhm.
like everything is so
Hollywood is a death.
fake and
It's all
cheap.
it's all run by a single motivation,
Yeah,
making death into a thing. There
yeah.
is no death. If
Nope.
you're afraid of death, see what happens when you're a kid. You're afraid that you aren't lovable as you are. So you put that fear into everything.
Yeah.
From that motivation, you create this darkness into a thing in your life, this
When
monster that's
you,
been chasing you.
yes, death. When you really know that death is not a thing, and you see that that is the single motivation, the controlling mechanism, the fear, like that's how, like the medical, the big pharma, doctor, like whatever. When you see it everywhere. You see their attempt at terrifying you with death in
Yep.
absolutely everything: advertisements, television, design, architecture,
Mhm.
schools, like every single thing, every level faction of life
Yep.
is affected.
Now that's the thing, the complexity. I think Janelle and some people ask that. Like, it's so complicated. Every thread I pull just takes me down a rabbit hole. But when you know that there's a single motivation behind all of it, you start to see the pattern. Now, pattern recognition is an expression of the sacred masculine. Getting caught up in complexity is like, oh, I can't see the forest for the trees. But standing back from it and being willing to feel what you feel, like Ramana said, meet the feeling and challenge the story. Question the story your mind tells you. It gives you a balance point. When you've got that, something starts to happen. You start to see the agenda, the way it plays out, because it's actually quite simple. The way they confuse everything, so you're chasing your tail the whole time,
Yep.
but you start
Yep.
seeing the same element everywhere you look. The
Yep,
same
yep. It's
color.
actually, we're thinking it's complex because they've inverted or manipulated us into seeing it as complex.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely so mind-numbingly simple that when you switch on, you see it like perfectly, beautifully. But I just got a really good question on my phone.
Sure.
So regards to human trafficking, how do the dark forces justify this? Children can't give consent. Are the souls being born into it coming, understanding this is in their soul contract? And why the fuck can't we wake up to the human and child trafficking? That's a huge question
That's
because
a
I
big
think the
question.
scope of the human and child sex trafficking is grander than even we can understand.
Yeah.
Grander, older, massive, but that's such a good question, especially with the free will and consent. Like how
Oh,
does the dark justify this? Like what is this?
yeah. I mean, firstly, slavery, and it's it's the ultimate expression of uh, the dark flipping the bird at God,
Yeah.
to be
It's the
crude.
worst of the worst.
Babies are pure, the purest expression of the divine in physical form. So by taking that and inverting it at the source, it's a way to cut God off at the source for
Yeah.
society. It creates a lot of emotional reactionaryism as well. It creates a lot of grief. It's a really powerful way to distort a family system, and that's why Bert Hellinger family system constellation work is one of the four pillars of the transition. Getting a handle on the trauma within family systems. So they've used this for thousands of years. It's a big thing with death, the end times death cult and Satanism. It's to it's to
It's
invert love, the
yes,
purest expression of love, and to create um, and to invert it, to flip it within that baby or that child,
sure,
to
and
create a
it's
trauma that runs them.
yes, and it's exactly how Hollywood is run and fueled, and propaganda is created. Like these families, that's why all these celebrities have these trans children, or what have you. They're born into a dark
Hmm.
cult,
Creating
and
trauma is how you bring them into the
right,
inversion.
right,
So
right.
all the main families within those of the interference, the human side, they all use that within their own families. So they traumatize the children that they're born into their families to be an inversion of themselves. So pedophilia and child sex trafficking are all just expressions of that inversion process.
But they let little droplets of truth
Hmm.
out like
They have
all the
to.
time in
They have to.
programs, in daytime talk shows. Like remember when, what was it, Sandra Bullock came out talking about using human foreskin in skincare? Like the reels that come up in
Wouldn't that
television
make you more wrinkly?
programs.
Sorry.
For the reels that come up that have been in movies or television programs or daytime talk shows, or the skits they've done on Saturday Night Live that are absolutely uncomfortable and absolutely unfunny and absolutely disgusting. Like, oh my God, when you see that,
And all
you,
the symbols and the
oh God, the black eye, the vril, like this
they
is a
have to
lot.
tell the big, why is that? Because free will is the golden law of the universe. Their plan can't work. We have to choose it for it to work. Because if we choose a particular experience, we have to be allowed to have it. God can't. That goes against the whole premise of the physical
Yeah.
universe. God can't intervene. ET races can't intervene. No one can intervene on our behalf when we choose a particular choice. We have to experience the ramification of it and make a new choice. That's essentially what's playing out right now. And
Faster, faster. I want it
so what
faster.
they do is they bring in, yeah, free will. They have to make the truth they have to include the truth and then bury it with a whole lot of complications. And that's where making an informed choice comes back to us. We need to know that that's a thing. We need to stop being reactionary and be objective. And
Yeah,
what stops you being reactionary is running out of road
yeah,
in this whole
yeah,
idea that you can do living life the right way and get anywhere. If that were the
yeah.
case, people wouldn't be waking up. This paradigm doesn't work because it was designed not to work.
Right.
So what's the
Yeah.
alternative?
Waking
Well,
up.
that question right there is what happens.
Yeah.
There's got to be another way. What's the problem that, as soon as you're willing not to know, now you're back in your divine form. Now you're reconnected to your divine form. You don't know the all it is. Only God knows the all it is.
Yeah.
And that's how you connect with the all it is, in each living moment, by letting it come to you as it is. You've
Oh,
got to get all the past trauma out of the way to be in the present moment, which means everything you experience from that moment on is about reversing the inversion. So all you see is the inversion in a way you've never seen before. That's why
right.
it looks black. You can't go around it, you've got to
So
go through
black.
it because it was never true. But you've got to learn that in your own direct experience in each living moment by experiencing it like you always assumed it was true and having to question, yeah, but is it? So again, satsang, critical, true north. How do you get back living back around the right way? How do you move through life again in the right way, not the inverse way, is by questioning the story you've had about everything you've ever thought you've known, not just assuming it's true. That's, excuse my
Yeah.
French, but that's fucking hard at times because
Yes.
you're talking about being exposed to the reality of pedophilia. You're talking about the fact that the
Nobody
UN
wants to go there.
is the core of human trafficking. The UN has been responsible, but for destroying more cultures around cultural
Yep.
genocide is a
Yep.
key part of those of the interference plan. And they're being the conduit for it. And you know what? We've bought the lie that
Yes.
says they're
Yeah.
opposite.
We did.
And that's where the power,
We allowed it to happen.
that's where the
I mean,
power
if
is.
you think of child protective services throughout the country, maybe the world, I don't know. Child protective services knee deep in child trafficking, knee deep. National forests.
Mhm.
National forests aren't, to protect our land. No, national forests are like tunnels underground, everything, and dark shit happening. It's like, why do you think we can't go to certain areas? Like, everything is an illusion until you wake up and I don't know,
Now that
know that
gets
it's
back to an important question, like how do we know that it's inevitable? Well, again, like I've said, the human race was deliberately created as a trap for those of the interference. And there are ramifications for being a conglomerate of multiple races. God told me that there are 24 core what he called the 24 civilizations. So there are 24 colors, frequencies that emanate from that intention, which is like white light. White light contains all the colors. So those 24 frequencies create the core template for all frequencies in a full circle, all
yeah.
civilizations. And then it just multiplies into all the orders of complexity that create the entire universe. So there are multiple iterations of those frequencies. When you put them all together, you could create all sorts of different civilizations. But fundamentally, they all come from 24 core civilizations. Now, the human race has all of them. That's the only race that it does. Now that has a massive, massive impact on the impact of free will because a race, think of what is that core frequency that everything comes from? Pure consciousness. Consciousness is what is. You
Mhm.
are your awareness is what connects you to the isness because that's what it is. That everything is pure consciousness expressed in physical form,
Right.
which means the human race is a single consciousness like an ocean, and your consciousness and mine are like the waves on the ocean. So it's separate, but it's one. Just like the entire universe, it's an illusion of separation created by this frequency that creates waveform frequencies. So we seem to be separate, but we're just like a wave on an ocean of human consciousness. So we have a collective consciousness. Now that means this thing called hundredth monkey effect. You don't you make decisions in your own life which create a trajectory. One decision leads to another. So you move through life in a trajectory, a line of decisions that move you
Bad
through,
decisions.
well, whatever, decisions. But that's true of the human race as a whole. So collectively, the human race chose to go into the dark side in the Atlantean age. Yes, we were tricked into it, but we let it happen. We chose it because we wanted what we wanted out of it, and we didn't really think clearly. So that has ramifications, which means every human on the planet had to live with that choice. No matter what your individual choice was, you
Right.
might have been able to see through the all of the crap at Atlantis, just like people in Germany in World War II knew exactly what was happening as fascism played out. They tried to tell people, but
But
they
you,
had to live with the consequences of their
yeah,
of the German population.
yeah,
Exactly. There's a collective ramification
yeah,
that each individual's got to live through as well. Now that collective consciousness, hundredth monkey effect, it means a certain number of people, all it takes is a certain number of people to make a choice, and that ripples out to the entire human race. So it's called the hundredth monkey effect. That was first observed by populations of rhesus monkeys in, I think, the 1800s. One population separated by another the same species on completely different islands. And they
yeah.
used to they'd wait for coconuts to fall off a coconut tree. Then they'd climb up They would climb up the coconut tree and then pull a coconut off. This is because that's what they ate, and then drop it on the ground and keep going until it broke on the rocks. They would put rocks on the ground below the tree and then drop coconuts until they'd hit the rocks and broke them. So it would take quite a few to get it. And then they were being filmed by, or they were being observed by naturalists. And then one day they saw monkey on the ground pick up a rock and then hit the coconut with the rock, a whole new way of doing it. It had an idea, hey, maybe there's a better way. Let's try this. And then other monkeys saw that happen and it spread through the population on that island until they all did it that way.
Yeah.
Then they observed some point later, this other island, suddenly it popped up there. They all started doing the same thing. And
Right. It was consciousness. There was no viewing it. Yeah.
Critical mass. They couldn't see it. They just were connected by collective consciousness. Yeah. Now that's why the human race was a trap. What happens when you get multiple races, multiple collective consciousnesses, and you put it into one consciousness, the human race, is you shrink the number of individuals required to trigger critical mass by a lot.
Yeah.
Instead of it being 2/3 or 1/3 or whatever it is, it's like 1%, 10%. So what happened in 1997 was the human race reached critical mass to wake up to the truth of who we are, where we are, and what's really. Enough people on the planet had gone through this process since Atlantis, and the sun started to move through this process. Enough people woke up to that question and were willing to give up everything to it. I have a problem. I don't know what it is. I would rather die than keep going. That was the important part, right? That enough people hit that point that the whole human race chose to wake up to the truth.
Yeah.
From that moment on, it was written in stone. Nothing anyone could do was going to change it. Those of the interference had been actually creating their own. In the end times, the charlatans reveal themselves by trying to hold their plan, despite the fact that it's inevitable. Now, that was always going to happen. That's why the human race was created. That's what the Nazarene put together. That's why the Nazarene oversaw all the races involved. That's why the Nazarene incarnated as the Nazarene and triggered the trap. That's why someone also asked about twin flame soulmates and their role in all of this.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's why he told his brother James before he was executed, because he knew it was known ahead of time which way the dark forces would go. Ignorance and arrogance, they're going to want to hold it on. So they gave them a bigger carrot. He told Nazarene told his brother James and the Magdalene to marry and have children, which created a new bloodline, which created a physical light space vehicle that the dark forces gave permission, because they said yes to the plan. They gave permission for this light space vehicle human race within the human race to be in the right form, because the Nazarene's energy signature was unique because of the paternal DNA. And I've explained this before.
James was close enough.
James was born next. Now, like I said, when the mother has a child, now her energy signature will always contain
that child,
an echo of the child's, which is of her but different. It's an extrapolation. So now those two frequencies are present. Well, that happened with the Nazarene.
Yep.
So she had within her being the energy signature of the Nazarene. So the Nazarene couldn't have children because of the genetic process itself. But when James was in utero, he took on his cellular development happened with that frequency present. So it was permanent within him. Permanent within him. He's the closest thing to the Nazarene it was possible that could also have children. That was done deliberately. So when he and the Magdalene had children, they created a light space vehicle that was capable of incarnating souls from Atlantis that had seen the whole thing from the start. They were masters. They understood what was playing out right from the start. They were able to incarnate into these lives in a way that kept their fifth dimensional connection to reality intact. It couldn't be destroyed. The way the Arcturians described it to me is they said you have an indelible soul purpose. That's why I have clear sight, because I was born into this bloodline. So these twin flame soulmates had a soul purpose which was about helping the human race connect to that core frequency that the Nazarene put into the human race's collective consciousness. So the Nazarene, the God said about this whole second coming thing. What is that? He said, yes, it's true. This time it's not the one, it's the many. Now that's ultimately the entire human race. There's nothing special about twin flames. They're just the same as every human on the planet. It's just a particular life purpose which was meant to help amplify this critical mass thing, to help trigger it.
Right.
So that's why the Nazarene incarnated. That's part of Plan B, to take this energy signature, put it into our collective consciousness, and then put a bloodline into the how can I put it, full consciousness that would connect to that. So when I hit the wall in the early 90s, I could die right now and I wouldn't care. I went through the same process you're going through, everyone's going through, I still am. We're all going through it together. There's nothing different about me. But because I asked that question and I was willing to let go of control and just start being guided by life, my own direct experience of that process connected directly to that energy signature and brought it up into consciousness, just like all the other twin flames. All it took was one twin flame to do that, and it triggered an impact on the rest of the twin flame system. So someone else had started this process before me, a girl. That helped me trigger it. And then we met in the UK at the same time. I've had 11, 11, 22, 33, 44, 55. We met in the UK and we spoke to God directly. That's the experience I had. It took us both 4 years to get there. And as soon as that happened, critical mass was triggered. And that was always the purpose. That made it inevitable for the entire human race. And that was always going to happen. So this essentially the information field that I've experienced, the information field that the Nazarene knows, and everything in between is available to every human. And it's coming up to the surface in a big way.
Yeah.
And it's
You can
causing
feel
a
it.
mass. It's triggering the entire planet, basically. Everyone is waking up because they have to. Doesn't matter who you are or where you are or what you think about anything right now. And this is important with the split earth thing.
Yeah.
God just said there are two ways to go through this process. It's inevitable. One is you can choose it or it'll happen anyway. You can wait for the paradigm to collapse and be forced. What the fuck? Or you can actually go, hang on a minute, there's something wrong here. This doesn't add up. What's going on? And he said it's better for you if you choose it.
And I have to think, because, the mainstream media is still so controlled, I have to think that there are way more of us awake than any of us know.
Big time. That's another thing. Yeah, you're not alone, believe me. Like, yourself, I know myself. I mean, it took me years before I could speak to anyone.
Oh, I
I didn't
know.
know what was going
This is some hard
on.
shit. This is hard shit to come out with. Like, your experiences, like we were talking even before we got on the live, like, you don't have proof for anybody, but the time for evidentiary proof is over. The time for academia is over, or at least in the form that it was, where it's in the books. But I mean, like, even academia, the books are printed and written by those of the interference, the inversion. Like, what we're learning is what they want us to learn. I just don't even care about my college degrees anymore. I like nothing that I ever used to think I believe now. I question everything, every reaction I have, every thought I have. Just like everything is up for debate. no holds barred, without exception, everything is questionable.
Yeah.
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 And
Oh,
that's
and then I have a question. I have a question. And Samantha said to choose equals chosen. So
mm,
we
good word.
chose, that's good, right? We chose to wake up, but weren't we in some degree, not in an ego, arrogant way, but weren't we also chosen? Like, isn't there an element of both of that with the souls who are here now and awakened?
That's right. Yeah. Well, I was told that we could have populated the planet thousands of times over with the number of souls that wanted to incarnate to experience what's happening on this planet right now. So anyone born right now who is alive right now, particularly Gen X, but all three generations currently are alive, and there's a connection between them. We were all chosen to be here because of our capacity to actually experience this transition, to
Yeah.
make it happen.
Yeah.
And that includes all the people who seem really ignorant and arrogant and dumb and stupid and violent and angry. And, again, Darth Vader, our
Everything serves a
capacity,
purpose. Darkness serves a
yes,
purpose. It
our
all
capacity,
is serving God.
our capacity to be taken all the way into the dark and choose the light at the last minute
Yeah.
is why we were all chosen, because that's necessary. Because what happened in that final scene, that last scene with Vader and Luke dueling in front of the Emperor, the whole thing was about that moment happening. He wanted the plan was to get Darth Vader to kill either Vader to kill his own son or Vader's son to kill him. Because once that happened, they this choice to go to the dark side was complete. All love connection would have been severed. You can't kill your father without saying, I wish I never existed. That's
Right.
darkness being a thing. You can't kill your son without completely abandoning the purpose of life, the flow of life. Your purpose
Right.
is a conduit to be the flow of life.
Right.
You were choosing to be a conduit.
Procreation.
So either way, whoever won, that was the whole purpose. And when Vader got struck down by Luke, and Luke had the opportunity to kill him, and he said no, because he knew he was his father, and he couldn't do it. So he chose no. I surrender myself to love. In other words, I reject
Mhm.
death as being anger and death and all of that and fear. He chose love. Vader saw that and also realized the plan. But the thing is, the plan had to be fully shown, like all of it. The Emperor had to show his hand fully to Vader. And then as soon as Vader clicked, he picked him up and threw him into the abyss. And that was always the plan. So the reason it's gone all the way to this point now where the fourth beast is fully showing itself is because we as a human race are able to see everything full circle, the whole thing, all of it. And we're the only race in the history of the universe to have been able to do that. The first race in the history of the universe to have gone through the entire playbook from beginning to end and still chosen the light.
So
God said,
exhausting.
God said of this transition, no other, the manner of transition of the human race has never been done before in the history of the universe. All eyes are on Earth because of the impact. Chosen one, chosen to bring balance back to the force. This whole thing about the universe being brought back into balance because of what's happening on this planet, which is why so many beings wanted to be here for it. As bad as it looks, as hard as
As
it looks,
hard as it
again,
feels.
people
Yeah.
on this call, why the hell should I give a shit about that scale? Well, because that blackness you're feeling, that darkness, the fact that you're willing to feel it without letting it kill you is
Yeah.
that's why it's not working in Israel. That's why the people in Israel are waking up. That's why the end times death cult has been concentrated into its last stand in Israel. And that's why they're trying to complete the picture by getting the victim perpetrator loop, the Hebrew who went through genocide to commit genocide. That's the last step. It's like getting Vader and Luke to kill each other. It's a similar thing. It's the same pattern. But the fact is, the Hebrew are waking up to the fact we've just become what we've judged. That's the thing with mind control. They know that victims become perpetrators, and they know that you become what you judge.
Um,
There are people in Israel waking up to that fact, and
yes, yes.
their days are numbered.
I got a couple of do you have time for a couple of questions?
Sure.
Okay, okay. So, this is so funny. What has the Nazarene been up to during all of this? What is time like for him as he watches all of this play out over the last 1200 plus years? Is it a blip for him, or is he focused on other shit while we work this out? Is he eating popcorn with his feet up? I
He's
love
probably
her.
laughing right now at that very question. Yeah.
Right.
And
It's a good
look,
question, and I
it's a
know
good
you
question.
quite possibly don't know, but you might have an inkling.
I do know he's here.
Yeah.
There's the Galactic Federation within this galaxy are here, and he's in charge of the whole program, and I do know that he is here, absolutely 100%, just like he was then, and
Okay.
that's part of the process. And there are galactic federations from other galaxies here too.
Okay.
It's
All
a
right.
big thing.
So he's not eating popcorn with his feet up,
Oh, maybe he could be sitting on a
relaxing,
starship,
saying,
thinking
"Okay,
back at his screen,
I
going,
did my part. You guys, you're
"Yeah, come
up.
on,
I did
it's all
my
right, you can
part. You're
do
up."
it."
So
Just like the
wait,
Super Bowl, we're all.
she's got another question, and it's why is it that we are the first race to be able to accomplish this right now? How much does technology play into this, the advancement of tech and globalization?
Well, your motivation is your protection in all things. So that's what God said to me. Your motivation is your protection in all things. You're coming from the heart, or you're coming from the ego that controls. So yes, they're using technology from the ego that controls process. But the Arcturian said all the lines of connection connecting them to you also connect you to them, and that's the key.
Yep, yep,
It's
yep. That's one of
frequency.
my favorite quotes I ever heard from you. And the other one was that whatever has been used against
uh,
you will
will be turned back to the user.
turn
So
back to
that's
the
two things
user.
together. So
So,
that
so like
gets
you gave me an example one time because this is all frequency wars, with the 5G or the skies or the air, whatever frequency wars. And I think a bunch of us, maybe even Mike was on that call, asked like, well, if it's going to be turned against the user, is it like a light switch moment? Could they like automatically make the EMFs and the internet and the 5G towers and the 6G towers? Could they all of a sudden make them well, it's not what's benevolent.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Can
Like
I?
a light switch. What? What?
This is a bit sort of. Can I hit the pause button for 1 sec
Oh, you
and
gotta
come back to that
go.
question? And
Uh,
you just talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
oh God, somebody asked me a question quick.
Yeah, you do that. I'll come back to that question, all right? Because I want to answer that because that's
Okay,
good. But I've just bear with me
okay,
1 sec. I'll be
okay,
back.
okay. I guess that's what happens on 2 hour lives. Come on, somebody asked me something. Yeah, so I've been listening to Gareth for 3 years, and um I don't know where I'd be without him. I don't know. I yawn. You guys don't see me all the time because he's talking a lot and I yawn a lot, but since my awakening, my yawning is my body or my soul hearing truth. So I'm always excited when I yawn because I'm like, oh, that's exciting. It's like ear ringing for me. Like it's really cool. Um, yeah, so I yawned a lot, but you couldn't see me on camera, so I'm really glad about that. So this is proof positive. I shouldn't have my own show. Somebody in the chat, you guys all know this. I read the chat for Gareth, but safely living in a mental institution. the Nazarene. Ah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, Gareth is grateful that I've encouraged him to share. He's been very afraid to share his truth for many years. Well, he was also kind of nudged not to share his truth, like, because it's all in divine timing, you know?
So
Yay, Gareth's back! That's what coffee will do. I said this is proof positive that Katie should not have her own show.
no, what was that?
Her question
Sharing.
basically, but it was a good question. But why is it that we are the first race to be able to accomplish this? How much does technology play into this? The advancement of tech and globalization.
Well, again, there was a problem that was growing and growing and growing, and something had to be done about it. So this grand experiment was created called the human race. That's you probably heard that phrase, the grand experiment, from some other ET contactees. Now that's what it means. The seeding of planet Earth. It was what a lot of people don't know is why and what that was for and what that was about. For some reason, I was born into a life purpose where I was taken through a process since I was 18 months old and given a whole chain of experiences and then brought into connection directly with God and the Arcturians and the Palladians and some other ET races to have a big picture perspective. And I was born into a life path that God showed me. He called the male twin flame the seal. So the book sealed until the end of time. For some reason, I was born into that so that I could have this sort of perspective, like the big picture, what simple truth of what it's all about. So there are elements of that that haven't been sort of spoken about before. So that's why I was told to stay quiet. I wouldn't have known what to say until 5 years ago. It started when the Arcturians turned up in 2016. Physically, they've been with me all my life, but they didn't show. They said it wouldn't have served me if they showed themselves too early. But they showed up to help me integrate what I've experienced, and that was a very powerful emotional experience for me personally too, because God said you do not truly know a thing until you've lived it. I've got to live this process personally directly. I've got to fall apart, lose it, feel self-doubt. When they told me what was it, 2 years ago, I think was it that I needed to speak publicly, like
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
how do I say this stuff? Like,
I know.
how do you speak about it? I've had a lot of self-doubt, and like everybody, we've been made to feel bad as we are, and then we react against that and behave in ways that we're not proud of, and there's this whole story around it, and then you've got to somehow be expose yourself in a world designed to stop you doing that.
Yeah,
So for me to turn around and say I was born into a bloodline connected to the Nazarene, you
right.
know, if if the key to all of this is to be yourself, 100% be yourself,
Yep.
fully be yourself, then
Yeah.
that's not there's no caveat on that. You just got to be willing to be yourself.
Yep.
There's a truth behind it all, that doesn't get released until you're willing to be yourself as well. So, I personally have fought that a lot, and I guess everybody's going through the same thing in their own different way. But in the end, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The whole thing about the inversion is it's not real. So all the strategies created to reverse the inversion were very specific to each person. Every human on the planet has a certain soul purpose, without which the Arcturians showed me this because I was really wrestling with it. How do I actually speak about this? You told me to stay quiet, and it felt like a security zone because I didn't have to expose myself to, you know, being accused of or reacted against. And they showed me an image of all the soul purposes in the universe as little colored tiles, like your glasses, but
Yeah.
beautiful.
Like a
So
mosaic.
it was a mosaic and it was
Yeah.
infinite.
Yeah.
And and I was blown away by it. It was too much to take in. But they said, without every tile, the picture is incomplete. How do you value one above another? And that really helped me a lot. Because I remember being told along the way, reality, they described it as the extraordinary ordinariness. And Ramana said it's all a story.
Yep.
You know, it serves a purpose though.
It serves a
So
purpose.
it's all there. Wow, that's extraordinary. And it's like, yeah, but it's not
No.
real either. The soul
Right.
is one, unity. So this illusion of separation, this Gareth that has this life path and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I've got to let it be there as it is and then not buy into it as a way to counter feeling bad about myself. And I realized that that was the only resistance I was having to just being fully true to myself. In my own family, haven't got a clue. My family doesn't have, my brother saw me get up and leave to go and have these experiences that I had to go through. He doesn't know why or what was going on. I couldn't tell him all. That feeling we've all got, we can't be ourselves with our own families.
Right, right, right. And you've had all of these experiences and had to be quiet and all your life. And you're a husband and a father. You've raised
Yes,
two children, you have a job, you're just like anybody else, but you have this lifetime of these experiences. And I guess it's time to talk because we are talking. But I'm getting tired.
very tired. It's been a long talk,
Yeah,
very long
yeah,
talk,
yeah,
and it's a
yeah,
lot. It's a lot.
yeah.
But was that, did I go to that question? I can't, the one before,
Oh,
just before, yeah.
I think the technology and
Oh, yeah.
globalization and why we are, yeah.
Well,
And she could always, yeah, everyone
yeah,
could reach out to us.
everyone's willingness to be the truth is what's flipping that around. So the frequency wars end around the middle of next year. And open contact with ET civilizations is an inevitable part of us saying yes to the truth. Because there are, as Tom said, why are they alien? God, why are they alien? We say to you, they're your brothers and sisters. So all the ability to turn AI and frequency generators back into harmony with the core frequency are right there, and it's coming absolutely.
Okay, wait a minute. You just gave the middle of 2026 is the end of the frequency wars. I would like a date for open contact. You know me. I
Probably a
can't
year
wait
later.
for that part.
Probably a year later. However, my twin flame was shown. We both get psychic dreams, which are a way we get communicated during the day and at night. So she was shown um, that it was a rollout process. So first there was a group brought in, and it was secret to the rest of the world, and they're like ambassadors. So that's the first connection, and then it gets rolled out because to have it happen all at once, there are a lot of people out there, they're not ready for that. It needs to be rolled out. So the destruction of this paradigm, or the um the exposure of the controlled narrative through the COVID narrative collapsing, the implications of COVID that lie on that scale, everyone has to see that they've been lied to on that scale. The first time that's ever happened in the history of the human race.
Hallelujah.
That's what undoes it. Yeah. The whole human race needs to see the size of this whole inversion, how big it is and how much they've given their life to it. That process rolling out coincides with open contact rolling in.
Okay.
So they go together. So how long that precisely takes to fully roll out, I'm not sure.
All right.
But roughly in the middle of 2027 is, I think, when it begins. So it's not going to be, it's not far away.
No, it's
And it's a
not
big
far
deal.
away.
Every question you've got, they know the whole thing. They've been here the entire time.
Yep. Yep.
So on that note,
Woo! On that note, love you guys. Oh, wait a
love you
minute.
all.
Wait, one sec. Roseanne, this is a good question. So we won't have digital ID. So this is okay, exactly. Thank you for shaking your head. I am on a lot of live calls in a lot of communities. Everybody's up in arms about the digital IDs in the UK and everything, and I'm always just calmly writing in the comments it's going to look threatening. It's going to look like they're advancing. It's going to look like it's going to happen. And it is absolutely not going to happen. They will not succeed. No way is humanity putting up with that bullshit. No way.
Yeah. Now,
That's my
the
answer,
human race,
Roseanne.
the human race has to see the entire thing. We have to know all of it. We have to know how it happened.
Yeah.
So, how did it happen? We gave our power to it.
We gave our power
We
to it.
created it by
Yep.
letting ourselves be manipulated. Now,
So
the
what
whole
all
human
of
race,
us have been going through for all these years, this pain, this darkness, this black void, this basically a life review while we're still living, humanity will have to go through that. That's why this is better if you choose it.
yes,
But we have to see all of that.
we've created the not domino effect by being willing to let life take us through the entire process, letting go of control and waking up to the truth. We've reached a critical point with that where it's rippling out in the physical. That's what I was getting back to, is December onwards, where it's the biggest paradigm shift in the history of the human race, unique in the history of the universe. So it's starting to show up in the physical because we were willing to let it happen internally. Enough humans on the planet were willing to let their own paradigm collapse, which looks like what you've been experiencing. It's not easy.
It's
Everything you think you know is a
awful.
lie. And
Everything.
all the anger, all the pain of separation that lie was meant to manage is
Rage.
released by it. That's the thing. It's
Rage.
like the suppression mechanism of this false paradigm stops working. So everything, but the suppression is an assumption. So it turns the energy of love into a thought form that isn't true of it. So what
Yeah.
you're experiencing isn't really emotion. It's just all the belief systems releasing themselves.
Yeah.
You're
Exiting.
experiencing them as emotions. So
Yeah.
enough people have done that the
God.
physical expression of that is playing out now for everybody. So
Thank
the paradigm will
God.
collapse. And
Yeah.
so your ability, basically anything in the news makes you feel afraid and insecure,
Yep.
step back from it and say, that's not the truth.
That's not the
I
truth.
want you to feel afraid and insecure. Now that strategy is being exposed. The fact that it's a strategy
Yep.
is being
Yep.
exposed. The more people, and too many people look at the protests that are happening. Too many people see
Oh
through
my
their
God.
bullshit. The
I
more they
know.
try to push this plan, the more tangible what they're looking at becomes to them, and the faster it spreads.
Yes.
All they're doing is accelerating it.
Their
But
own demise. Accelerating their own demise.
yeah, they've created their own nemesis, their own demise. They're surrounded by their own system. That's the problem with centralization of power. If you lose control of the flow of information, you're surrounded by it. Now everyone's attention is looking to the center of every problem. What's digital ID about? How's that connected to what's going on in Israel?
Yep.
How's that connected to what happened in the 20th century? How's that connected to the Roman Empire? It's
It's
all the
all
same thing.
connected. It's all
Why this
connected.
whole thing with ETs being about invasion? If ETs wanted to invade, they would have done it a long time ago.
Long time ago.
But it doesn't even make sense.
It's so funny.
The civilization that could have turned up here from another galaxy, sitting around waiting for us, why? They would have just taken over. So clearly that's not the case. Blah, blah, blah. So it's all connected. So being able to stand back and make an informed choice. Should I just believe this? They they can't pull this off. It's already a done deal.
No, 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 no.
But
My girl,
we created it by giving our free will to it. That's what everyone
absolutely.
has to
And
see.
we have to own that, alchemize that, acknowledge that. Okay. But I just want to read you a text I just got from my friend. She's like, "You guys are brilliant and incredible," in all caps. She's like, "Thank you so much for all of this time and wisdom. My mind is buzzing." She says, "I feel so excited and lit up for the first time in a long time. In so
Good.
long." I know, I know, I know, I know. I know exactly how she feels. I like what? Oh, it's all
Wow.
okay. Roseanne feels that way when we talk. When she hears me
Yes.
talk, she's like, "Oh, okay, it's all gonna be okay." Like there's
It's more
nothing to
than okay.
fear. Right.
They,
But
the
that doesn't,
iTunes,
it's more than okay. If you're, I'm probably going to say what you were just about to say, is that the Arcturian said, like, if humanity knew what was coming for them, they'd be dancing in the streets. So I just want to say one thing in this excitement that you're sharing. If tomorrow you're back in the black, that's all part of it. It's
yeah,
all, I'm back in the black. almost every morning. So
That's
I just wanted everyone to understand that maybe they already do, but the excitement we feel, I'm not trying to take away from it, but just be okay for the black to come back in.
just know that what you've allowed in is now going to undo all the parts of you that don't know that yet. And that's all you're going through.
Yeah,
That's it. It is the help you've asked for.
yeah.
Just let your mind spin around on it being wrong. Let the feeling be there, black, black. Oh, yesterday I was feeling so good, and now here I am right back in there again. Oh, that's because it's never going to happen, and la da da da. And then catch yourself. Hang on a minute. Do I really know that's true?
Yep, I
That
ask myself all day long, do I know that's true? But let me just say one more thing. Flix Love says, thank you, Gareth and Katie. This is so helpful. Now pay taxes? LOL. My mom is so ready to stop paying taxes, but she's still too scared to stop paying taxes. And I totally understand that. We should talk about finances someday. And then Janelle says ET doesn't want to come to this reality. And I say, Janelle, you're wrong. ET absolutely does want to come to this reality.
Oh, they're waiting with open arms. Again, we're genetically connected. They're like, again, Tom, God said, "Why are they alien? We say to you, they are your brothers and sisters." And that's not metaphorical, that's literal.
Now, when I interrupted you, you were going to talk about, did I say what you were going to say? That the Arcturians told you about what's coming and the joy or
Yeah, well, they showed me an image of what's coming next is the biggest renaissance in the history of the universe, and they
okay.
showed it to me as an image of it, just an explosion of color and light. It was like your glasses just bang. So all the creative
Okay.
energy that has been suppressed by this system all coming out,
Yeah,
and the way God put it to me, then life may return to that which we always intended.
intended. I'm ready
And
for
there's no
that.
financial system that'll be
Yeah,
phased out.
that'll be phased out. Yep.
So first it gets flipped upside down. The corporate system is cornered by its own financial system. So this economic crash is going to kill the corporate system, not civilization. All the steps have been taken, all the countermeasures have been taken. They're all sitting there waiting in the wings for this inevitable crash. It's a chain reaction they can't stop now.
Yep.
They created COVID. Now they're trying to keep managing this chain reaction to their purposes using the narrative, keep us afraid, but
Yep.
it's not going. It doesn't. It won't work. It's way start faster, and it means they're stuck in this chain reaction. Then this alternative system flips it all on its head,
Yep.
and then it gets phased out altogether.
Yep.
And we put civilization back over the next 20 years. This whole agenda 2030, flip it around the other way.
Yeah.
Open contact with ET civilizations. They help us put what God called the octopi that binds our you know, sacred masculine expressed as the system of civilization being inverted to the ego that controls, centralization of power centered around the ego. It flips it around so that everything serves us being soft and open, the divine feminine. Our emotional body can
Soft.
finally be fully open. So our heart connection that tells us which way to go, finally life may return to that which we always intended, is matched to our creative power. The ego that controls is gone, sacred masculine, can put it all together and learn how to paint and draw. God told me art is life. That's what's coming.
Wonderful. Art is life.
And quick, fast.
Janelle says, crash away, crash away. I know. And the whole world's going to be losing their shit as everything crumbles. And all of us on this call are going to be like, yes, fine,
Oh,
let it go.
I'll tell you an analogy
Right.
they gave me, and we could end on that if you like. That when I
Okay.
was 9, I fell off the 3-story building roof. And as I was falling, I was lowered to the ground in a giant hand, literally, like I was lying on my back in a giant hand, and I saw 9 images with the whole everything, history of the universe, God, life, us, humanity, me, blah, blah, blah. And then when I hit the ground, it was like nothing happened. I may as well have just been lying on the ground from the start. And I just got up and went home. That is an analogy for the transition.
Wow.
Not dying. You
No,
jump off. When you jump off, you're
you're
in the process
held.
of connecting the dots that you're being held in. You're being held and brought through a process of being put back on the ground of reality.
Yep.
And at some point very soon, you're going to go relax. It's all as it should be.
It's
This that
all
I'm
okay.
experiencing right now is why it's the help I asked for.
All right. I love you, Gareth.
Love you,
Thank
Katie.
you. I
Thanks,
love you,
everyone.
everybody.
More questions next week. That was great.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. Give me more questions. Text me questions. Find me on Instagram. I'm the same handle as my YouTube. All right. Love you.
Instagram, yeah. Do that
Yeah.
with me too.
Yeah.
We need to get the Instagram links in the chat
I've
thread.
already.
Didn't
Oh,
I do that? Can
oh.
we do that?
Okay, well, you can end this. You hang up and I'll add it to the chats. Love you, Mike. Love you,
Thank you.
Roseanne. Crystal
technical-
rainbows, Samantha Dalton says. Love everybody. Okay, you can end this. I love you.
Love you all. Bye.
Bye.